Um, and the push for war with China, we seem to be having an amazing state of affairs. That also comes out of that state of mind. And part of that state of mind is that negotiations are not only a sign of weakness, but somehow a sign of immorality. That if you negotiate, it shows you're not principled. And that's a very strange way to look at the world, in my view, because the alternative to negotiating is killing and death, which is what we're seeing right now in Ukraine. The important thing is to stop the killing and the death through compromised settlement. That is always a better outcome, or usually a better outcome, than war. And there seems to be an enormous effort to block any efforts at negotiations. And it's particularly disappointing to me that this seems to be very much on all sides of the political spectrum, but including the political left. There's much less sentiment in favor of negotiation and peace on the left than there should be. And I find that very surprising.
Why are you surprised?
No. I'm sorry.
No, Reverend, let him answer this question, and then Reverend, you jump in. Why are you surprised?
Historically, the left has been anti-war. That's the tradition I grew up in. Is that it was the left that was anti-war, the right that was pro-war, and now you're seeing some reversal of that. The squad in Congress, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, are indistinguishable not only from the Biden administration but from former Bush neoconservatives. And we have a kind of a lockstep agreement on this that's very unhealthy.
Bryce Green, your thoughts? Bryce Green?
Exactly the same. I think that we're in a period of extreme escalation in terms of how America is reacting to the rest of the world. Like Medea Benjamin said, we're talking crazy talk as we spend more and more money on weapons for Ukraine and escalate things over there. We're also talking about confronting China and sending more weapons to Taiwan, emboldening the Taiwanese leadership to confront China. And China has been very clear that this will lead to war if the U.S. continues on the same path, but the U.S. doesn't seem to care. And one of the key things, I think, preventing a wide-ranging anti-war sentiment in this country is that people just simply aren't being told the truth. You have your program and people like Medea Benjamin doing God's work, but the vast majority of the American public really doesn't even see the fact that we're escalating against nuclear power the way we are. They don't see the danger of pouring weapons into, the corrupt Ukrainian situation over there, where weapons are going every which way and no one knows how. No one's really tracking them, and they don't see the dangers of confronting China, which is like I said, a nuclear power. And they don't also see the confrontations that were escalating in the Middle East. We're trying to back Israel as they saber rattle against Iran, and we just had the largest ever military drills with all these theaters. But the media refuses to cover, and so that just stresses the importance of connecting with alternative sources of information, so that we can actually get a peace platform into the public discussion. Like Dr. Gibbs said, the mainstream of the progressive left are indistinguishable from the neocon-controlled Biden administration with respect to all these issues of war and peace, of military spending, of America's imperial role in the world. And it's really standing in the way of actually uniting the left in a way that can be progressive in the world.
Dwight McKee, have you seen this before? Did you see this during the Vietnam War protest when Dr. King made a pivot to oppose the war? Many people, including after his anti-Vietnam War speech, and of course, Reverend Jackson was there. Wyatt T. Walker, Reverend Dr. Wyatt T. Walker, is reported to have said to him, "Martin, you have just signed your death warrant." I mean, you could oppose apartheid in America, but the military-industrial complex? Dwight McKee, your thoughts?
Well, no, this is a little different in that war now is almost synonymous with patriotism. And to be anti-war now is to be anti-America. The major difference is war now is so mechanized that it does not seem like real war anymore. When people were fighting in Foxholes, and they were shooting each other and stabbing each other face to face, and you could see the blood gushing out, and they brought people home in body bags. Now war's fought with drones, and it's almost like a video game. And so drones bomb from afar, and the thing that's left there is the impact of the bomb. And so you don't see the dead babies. You don't see the dead mothers and children. And if anybody shows them, as did some of the soldiers, then they get court-martialed and sent to jail because the administration don't want you to see real people die. And so it's not as real as it was in Vietnam when you actually saw babies being burned up, when you actually saw soldiers being brought back in body bags, when you actually saw the carnage of war every day. It's a lot different. Now it's much more subdued and much more mechanized.
Well, Reverend Jackson, is it, many people said that, or say that Walter Cronkite's reporting of Vietnam helped turn the tide of the war because you then did see the body bags. I mean, Reverend?
He was a credible journalist, not just a kind of model on television every day. He spoke with moral authority. Now, my concern now is, Dwight's point is that he also had a body count every night. Bodies came back into the air base in Maryland. Now, illegally, you can't do that anymore, either. Again, my concern now is that we're concerned about the border. The border, we don't have a Latin American policy for development. Trade with Canada and then stop trade with Venezuela, stop trade with Cuba. We had the Iran Consulate mess down there in Latin America. Cuba was sending doctors and teachers, they were sending bombs and guns. So we need to go another way on Mother's Day. We want to act for peace. They should die in war.
Medea Benjamin, what do we do? I mean, every time we hear about a Pentagon budget, they end up adding money that the Pentagon doesn't even ask for. And no one talks. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. No, it's just.
Absolutely right. And then almost like a routine symbolic act, there's some members of Congress who propose a cut of $100 billion, which is very, very slight. And only a couple of dozen Congress people will vote for that, knowing that it won't pass. So what do? Well, we need to rise up. I think when you mentioned, Santita, that the media is part of the problem, that is a big part of the problem because the media doesn't talk about this. They don't talk about the Pentagon as robbing us of money we need for health care and affordable housing and education. They don't talk about the Pentagon as supporting the merchants of death, which is what the Pope calls the weapons industry. They talk about the weapons industry as our saviors because the weapons industry give money to the advertising for the media. They give money to the politicians. They use our taxpayer money to promote the military at sporting events and religious-related events. So, right, we have got to do something about this budget, and we've got to let our Congress people know that we see through all of this and that we want them to do something more than just symbolic. We want them to really fight for a cut in the Pentagon budget so we can free that money up for all the needs that our people and our planet have.
So how do we do that? I mean, what should we do? I have a couple of minutes before we go to break. I mean, what can we do right now? I mean, because we're coming into this presidential season.
To show that calling for peace is a popular issue. when Trump says it, he gets roar from the crowd like we heard it on CNN when he says, I'm going to call Zelensky and Putin and solve this problem. Robert F. Kennedy, who has announced his candidacy for president, has a great position on the war industry and calling for peace. We have to push Marianne Williamson, who is very good on most of these issues, except she's not quite there on Ukraine yet, so that we have some alternatives and we can show as we go into this presidential season that Biden's position on these wars is not a popular position and force him to change.
Let's talk about this, everybody. July 15th through the 19th, the Rainbow Push International Conference will be talking about issues just like these. We're talking with Dr. David Gibbs, University of Arizona historian, Bryce Green, Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, Dwight McKee, social scientist. Of course, he's with the Moffitt Project here in Chicago. And then Reverend Jesse Jackson. I want you to call us at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. But join us at our international conference. We'll be talking about issues just like these. This one. Hey, Shirley Carter. Hey, John Cunningham. Hey, Robert Williams. Hey, E. Wren and Jewel and everybody. Sending you much love. Stay right here. Everybody like and share the show. Like and share the show. Let's talk about the real meaning behind Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day for peace. They were calling for peace. They were calling for sanitary conditions. They were calling for so much. Indeed, more people, more soldiers died in the Civil War from filth than from their wounds. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes.
Your opinion counts. 1-866-594-HOPE. That's 1-866-594-4673.
Yes, Reverend. They're all here.
I need to go.
You need to go now? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You okay? We'll say goodbye to the audience because they're concerned about you.
Love you guys, okay? Bye, Reverend. Have a good day.
Love you, Reverend. Thank you for joining us.
Keep me in your prayers, okay?
Dad, I told you not to go out last evening. Told you. Get some rest. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. All right, hang up, Daddy.
All right.
Okay, hang up. Okay, everybody, we want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about ending? Well, I mean, what was interesting to me, and I open this to the whole panel. I think we just have these knee-jerk reactions politically. If Trump calls for an end to war, he's vilified. I'm like, what is wrong? What is wrong with you? And then, I mean, I'm telling you, some of my listeners have threatened to not listen to my show anymore if I have Robert Kennedy on there, and I do plan to have him on. They're so angry. And I just think we're not making good sense. Medea and Dr. Gibbs and Bryce and Dwight McKee, we're just not making good sense. I mean, can't I say, Trump, you're right. Get in there, negotiate the peace.
Yes.
I mean, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
No, you have to say that. You have to show that it's not the messenger, it's the message.
Yeah, and also, if Trump is the only one saying this, then you encourage him to say it. I mean, if he's bad in everything else, that's true. But you have to support him when he's right on something.
But when you say that, people get so angry, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I support him on this. If he will go
But,
in,
we don't have to believe him.
no.
What we have to say is that he is a cunning politician, and he recognizes this is a winning position because the polls are showing more and more of the U.S. public don't even want to keep sending weapons to Ukraine and certainly support peace talks. So Trump recognizes that and says it. And we have to say, well, others have to recognize that as well and start talking about peace.
Stand by. We're coming back up.
In a world like today, it's a rare occasion to be able to see young mothers like the ones that were around when I grew up. But they live on in memory to quite a few of us. And this song is dedicated to those who cherish that memory. One Sunday morning, breakfast was on the table. There was no time to eat. She said to me, boy, hurry to Sunday school.
Wow. I'm so grateful that I grew up in a time in which I heard songs like this, celebrating women, Jeremy Geiger, and celebrating mothers. What do you think, Jeremy?
Love it.
I love it. I mean, I can't find anything.
Can't find
today.
nothing like this no more.
Can't find it. Bring that up, please. Felipe Wynn.
Will turn your life around.
Amen. Because I had a young mother. You know, my parents had me when they were in college. And it was just a value system that they had. And we've got to return to that, everybody. We really do. And let's talk about war and peace on Mother's Day, because indeed, that was the original idea of Mother's Day. Medea Benjamin, co-founder of Code Pink, Dr. David Gibbs, Bryce Green, and Dwight McKee. We've gotten so far from this. And we've become just a war nation. Medea Benjamin, and I want everyone to jump in on this. But let me start with you, Medea Benjamin. When former President Donald Trump in the CNN town hall meeting this week said, look, he was vilified for not choosing sides. Okay, I got it. He said, look, I want no more deaths. Let's end this. Put me in there and I'll stop it. Now, there are reports that show that Zelensky was willing to negotiate a peace, but it was America that told him to pull back. Where do we go from here, Medea Benjamin? I mean, we're on the verge of default with our money. We can't afford this war.
I love that you brought up the fact, Santita, that there were several times right before the invasion and right after the invasion when Zelensky and Putin were talking about peace. This certainly happened at the end of March, 1 month into the invasion, where the Turkish president was negotiating and it was looking good, and they came up with a 15-point plan. And then the UK and the US came in and squashed it. And we heard that from not only the Turkish mediators, but we heard it from the Prime Minister of Israel at that time, Naftali Bennett, who was also negotiating a ceasefire and said the West blocked it. So now we see the Chinese coming forth with a peace proposal. Zelensky looks on it favorably, Putin looks on it favorably, and yet it's the U.S. once again that says, no, we want to support Ukraine to victory, when we don't even know what victory means.
And Macron said, look, you're profiting off of this. You know.
Can't blindly follow the United States. And in this case, he was talking about U.S. policy towards China that's so provocative and antagonistic. So, yeah, we're at a time when we see the polls turning. Opinion in the United States, only 48% of Americans in the last AP poll said they wanted to keep giving weapons to Ukraine. And yet just about every congressperson is calling for more weapons. So we obviously are not doing our job as citizens of calling the Congress and demanding that they support a peace process. It really is up to us to show them that the tide has turned, that the base, that their community is saying, what the heck are you doing? You've spent over $115 billion of our tax dollars on an unwinnable war that could lead to a nuclear catastrophe, and yet your communities are falling apart. So I'd say on Mother's Day, let's rise up.
Dr. Gibbs, Shirley Carter from beautiful Philadelphia says it appears that the war in Ukraine is a proxy war between the United States and Russia.
Yes, there's no doubt about it. That's been American officials have, privately, I'm sure, are very well aware of the fact that this is really much more a war between the United States and NATO on the one hand and Russia on the other, through the use of Ukraine. The killing, deaths may be happening in Ukraine, but the real combatant parties here is the United States and NATO against Russia. I think that's been very clear from the very beginning. The official party line of the United States is that it's up to Zelensky to decide when and how to negotiate peace. But the U.S. has repeatedly violated, that its own statements, and that when President Xi of China proposed a peace plan, the United States, I believe it was John Kirby of the State Department, said that we're not ready for peace. We're not ready to accept a peace agreement. At least in his immediate statement, didn't say anything really about what Zelensky might think. So this is very much the United States calling the shots here. And, as Medea Benjamin noted, there was almost a peace settlement in March a year ago, negotiated by the Turks, and the U.S. and Britain blocked it. And I should add, not only was that established by Turkish officials and Israeli officials, but also in the Ukrainian press, in Ukrainska Pravda. It was stated that Britain, no doubt acting through the United States, directly traveled to Kiev and told Zelensky that, your backers are not ready for peace, even if you are. So the United States has been really the driving force in this process. Again, that doesn't justify the invasion. Russia should not have invaded either way. But the United States very much provoked this war and is keeping it going.
Bryce Green, the reporting, you said, is way off, that the American public are not being told the truth, and yet we're watching the tide turn. What is happening?
Right. Well, one of the more recent developments in the Ukraine war was the revelation of the Discord leak, which showed in large part that the United States government was actually misrepresenting the image of how the war was going and what their prospects were or what they believed that the Ukrainian government was capable of. We're hearing a lot of talk now about the spring offensive. Well, the Discord leaks and other reporting have shown that the United States doesn't even believe that Ukraine can make serious gains. So despite that, we are still seeing, like you said, all the Congress people supporting sending more weapons, supporting the escalation, supporting more death and destruction, even though they know that the counteroffensive will not be successful. And this really plays into a larger role of hiding the U.S. role as a deliberate escalator in global conflicts. And this is happening all around the world. There is a model for countries getting together and solving their issues through negotiation, diplomacy. In fact, we're seeing it all around the world, and the rest of the world is taking note. Saudi Arabia is making peace with Iran because of Chinese intervention, and that's led to talks in the Yemen war, and that's led to normalization with Syria. Now, these are all positive developments that might have been unthinkable in the last 5 years, and yet they're happening because one actor on the world stage decided to actually behave reasonably. And this really isn't shown to the U.S. audiences because I assume that if it was, it would really lay bare how bankrupt the American position in the rest of the world is. Like I said, we're escalating against China, we're escalating against Russia, we're escalating against Iran, we're pouring more weapons into military systems, forming new deals to have access to military bases. We're putting a nuclear submarine in South Korea. We're putting more troops in the Persian Gulf. We're putting more troops in the South China Sea. Now, does this sound like a peacemaking country to you? I don't think so. It's really being hidden from American audiences when we talk about how America acts in the world. The Western media, the U.S. media especially, they continue to portray America as fighting for values like democracy, peace, and justice, but they completely ignore all evidence to the contrary. And this Trump, where Trump is asked, who do you side on this war? Like it's some sort of cartoon, like it's a kid's show, like it's a video game. And he responds quite reasonably that he wants people to stop dying. Well, in U.S. media, that was met with a lot of derision and attacks, and people are calling him Putin's puppet, and people say, oh, well, Trump won't say who he wants to win the war. And that's just a factor of our media system. They're unable to contend with the realities of American empire and only able to portray things in simple narratives, propagandistically simple narratives that prevent people from getting a real image of how their country is behaving, and thus hinders any attempt to try to change it. It's a very dangerous situation.
Dwight McKee, you come out of the church, and of course, you've been working with Reverend Jackson since you were a young teenager, going on 60 years. And my question for you is, do you think that the church, specifically the Black church, can have a role in this? You know, the women, the founders of Mother's Day for Peace, they had Women's Work Day. They had Women's Friendship Day. I mean, they had clubs where they were meeting in churches and in town halls all across the country to end war, to have discussions about that. Do you think that there's space for that in church today?
He didn't know which church you're talking. The traditional church right now, the evangelical church right now, is much more patriotic than they are Christian, and they believe more in America than they do in Jesus. And so there is such a juxtaposition of patriotism and the American way and war a victory that the church is coming one that will get affected. There's another part of the church that believes in peace and justice and the abatement of war, but they are really kind of unheard. Don't get too of which they are seen as almost heretical in their approach to peace. It is very ironic that the way Donald Trump is vilified the other day for calling for peace, sitting an ex-sitting president, and somehow they declare him to be anti-patriotic because he wouldn't root for more death and more carnage, as if this was a Super Bowl. I think in many ways, the United States is trying to complete Reagan's position of trying to bankrupt the Soviet Union and using the Ukraine as a proxy to do that. But the fact of the matter is, China is going to give Russia whatever they need to not lose war. Ukraine may not under any circumstances be able to win this war. I don't think the war's winnable, to be honest with you. And the fact that all of this, that they've allowed this carnage and all this death, when they should have negotiated the first week and be able to maintain that country and not have that country go into oblivion, it's really a sin and a shame before God. It works for the president of the Ukraine because it's made him a hero, but it's actually worked against his country because his country is decimated.
Medea Benjamin, I've got about 3 minutes before we go to break. What can women come together and do? I mean, you have, Women's Friendship Day, Women's Work Day, Mother's Day for Peace. What can we come together and do? Not to exclude men, but given that this is Mother's Day for Peace, and given that with all of these givens, what can we do? What should we do?
I want to sound self-serving, but one thing is to become a member, and it's free, of Code Pink, which is a women-led peace group. And Santita, during the early days of the Iraq War, when we first started 20 years ago, we were a huge organization with chapters all over. We have to grow that back again. Mm-hmm. So I'd love for people to go online, look up Code Pink, and help us be as effective as we can. And then there's another grouping that's come together called Peace in Ukraine. It's got a website, peaceinukraine.org, meets once a month, gives each other ideas of what we could do, how we can effectively urge our Congress people to support peace talks, what we can do to be pressuring the media to be putting forth other views. We have a speakers bureau. You can invite us to your church to give a talk. So those are some of the things. I'd say education and mobilization are the key things that we have to do now.
Hey, everybody, get involved. If you really want to celebrate mothers, this Mother's Day, you want to fight for peace. That's what Julia Ward Howe and Anna Jarvis were fighting for. You will push for universal single-payer health care. They were fighting for health. More soldiers in the Civil War died from the filth that surrounded them, the infection that they incurred, than they did from their wounds. And we've got the same problem today. Maternal mortality in the United States today is the greatest in the developed world. We got a lot of work to do, everybody. A lot of work to do. So, everybody, going to get some closing thoughts from this magnificent panel. And we're going to be talking about these progressive leaders who are being elected all across the country. But they're being asked to do more. They have fewer resources. So, as we bring in Brandon Johnson to become the mayor of Chicago, the third largest, most populous city in the United States, what have we asked him to do, and what do we need to do to push him as other people pull him? Think about that. Peace, 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 be still. Reverend James Cleveland, back with more of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes.
Careless, thou not, that we perish. How can thou lie asleep? It seems like each moment so madly is threatening. Oh, a grave, a grave, a grave in the air. Redeem. Get up, Jesus, because of me.
Coming up, we'll have closing thoughts from Reverend Jesse Jackson right here on Keep Hope Alive.
Miss Benjamin?
Ad paid for by
Might
the
have.
Sentinel Group.
But we got
Attention
Bryce
veterans,
Green
active
and
duty
Dwight,
military,
right?
civilians.
Okay.
And David
And
Gibbs.
you all and Dr. Gibbs. Can they have about a minute apiece?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Bryce and Dr. Gibbs and Dwight McKee.
Yeah.
You all are absolutely brilliant. You're going to have a minute apiece to give us closing thoughts.
All right.
But thank you so much for this, because, this is Mother's Day for Peace. And we need to talk about this. But where do you see this going? I expected it, but I was so dismayed by the anger on the so-called left, certainly on the Democratic column, about when former President Trump called for peace. I mean, and it's like all HE double hockey sticks broke loose. I'm like, you all sound crazy. Don't you want to get out of this? I mean, what's happened here? I mean, I think Dwight McKee made a brilliant point about this, we don't see blood and gore anymore. Now it's, you send people into a darkened room and they're playing a video game. But they sure are killing people. But these soldiers are leaving their posts. They're like, I know I'm killing people. I can't do this. And Dr. Gibbs, Bryce, Dwight, help me. I mean, because it just seems to me that Democrats are reflexively calling for war, and they don't even know why we're there.
Well, I think what you're seeing is that the public
is using its voice quietly to oppose the war, and isn't getting much response at the political level so far. Neither party is really taking a peace position, except on the fringes. Now, Trump may be changing that somewhat ironically with his recent town hall, but on the whole, both parties have been kind of mostly lockstep, more so with the Democrats, but with the Republicans too. But I think as people get tired of the overspending on the military, underspending on domestic activity, because, guns versus butter, as the election begins to move forward, you'll see more and more of the public kind of using its voice to oppose what's going on here. And at some point, you're going to have to get a response at the political level. I have some mixed feelings about Robert Kennedy's candidacy. He has definitely some issues. I think nevertheless, he is taking a very productive stand on the Ukraine war, and he's already got, I think, 19 or 20% of the vote among Democrats, and that could increase considerably over time and put pressure on the mainstream of the party to really address this issue.
What gives you mixed feelings about his candidacy?
Oh, well, in the past, I'm kind of a vaccine believer, shall we say, and I believe in vaccine mandates. I believe people should be required to have vaccines. He's been somewhat skeptical on that. So that has given me some pause. On the other hand, he's been much more rational than anybody else in the party on the issue of Ukraine and peace. So he deserves a voice. His position deserves to be heard.
It's very
interesting.
interesting.
I'm glad you're going to have him on your show.
Well, I can't wait to have him because he's not an anti-vaxxer. He's anti-unsafe vaccines. Because there's been a big debate, not a debate. There's been a lot of problems in Africa and India, and as you know, there's been pushback against Bill Gates coming in there with more. Because I don't understand that. Why we can't ask questions, particularly on people who've been experimented upon, like Black people have, and people of color, because they don't test these medicines out in Europe. They do that in the so-called third world.
4,
Stand by,
3,
getting closing thoughts.
2,
Thank you, Jeremy.
1, you're live.
Hey, everybody, July 15th through the 19th, Rainbow Push International Conference. Please join us in Chicago. Go to rainbowpush.org, rainbowpush.org, and I hope that you will be with me tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. I'm going to be at the inauguration of Mayor Brandon Johnson. What are we asking him to do, and what do we have to help us get done? Dr. David Gibbs, 1 minute closing thoughts for you. Mother's Day for Peace.
Okay, I think that what we have to do is get a mass movement in this country against the military-industrial complex and against the sort of permanent militarization of U.S. foreign policy, and to return U.S. foreign policy to a negotiation stance, that we stand for negotiations, not automatic resort to war. I think the public needs to use its voice. Those of us who are on the left, as I am, should be willing to set aside some of our past reluctance and work with people on the right who share similar views on these issues. Again, that doesn't mean we have to trust them or love them, but I do think we have to work with them in order to achieve common goals.
Bryce Green, your thoughts?
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think what's needed now at this moment is people to come together to try and get a real hold for or on the understanding of their world. The information that we're getting, the information environment that we're in has been so polluted and so degraded in the sense that a lot of people have stopped trusting anything at all. And so what people need to develop are ways that they can comprehend the world that's going on around them, the changes that are happening, that are coming, and deciphering the mystery that seems to come on their televisions requires is like Dr. Gibbs said, a mass move of people who are committed to changing the world, combating the excesses of American empire, and making a better world.
Dwight McKee, just under a minute.
I think of that, and I think that of Black women after the Civil War, especially Mother's Day, they had children have been taken
you know what, Dwight, you're going in and out. I'm going to give you closing thoughts on the other side, or should I say there'll be opening thoughts. We want to get you in a good place because you were going in and out, and we want people to hear everything that you've got to say. Dr. David Gibbs, University of Arizona, brilliant historian, and Bryce Green, brilliant writer, researcher, fairness and accuracy in reporting, and of course, Medea Benjamin from Code Pink. She said you can join Code Pink for free. You know, we can do that, and we can get peace, as mothers all over the world were calling for more than 150 years ago. Coming up, let's talk about Brandon Johnson and what his ascendancy to the seat of mayor in Chicago, what will that mean, and what do you need to do to help him do what you need him to do? Back in a minute.
To Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. For more information on upcoming shows and guests, please visit our website at www.keephopealiveradio.com.
Dr. Gibbs?
No, they're all gone.
They're gone? Okay, good. Dwight?
Yes.
Okay, can you keep speaking? Because you were in and out.
Yeah, I was saying that I can't help but think of the
Okay, wait
black
a minute.
women.
Where are you? Okay, let me speak again.
I can't help think of irony of black women whose children had been taken from them, and many of them slaves of South River being asked to celebrate Mother's Day, and how they must have felt, and how women Sojourner Truth must have felt, who understood the
Stand
of
by.
how black women.
Stand by. You know, and you can segue into what Brandon is looking to do. I'm going to come right to you. Okay.
Okay.
Stand by.
Call toll free 1-866-59.
Hello.
Stand by.
Good morning, Dr. Starks.
Hello.
Good morning, Dr. Starks. Please hold for Santita, please.
Okay, how are you? Good. Let me turn off my TV here.
Just turn him down.
Okay.
My sister's little boy came into the kitchen one evening while she was fixing supper, and he handed a piece of paper that he had been writing on. And after wiping her hands on her apron, she took the letter in her hands and she read it. And this is what it said. For mowing the yard, $5. And for making up my own bed this week, $1. For going to the store, 50 cents. And playing with little brother while you went shopping, 25 cents. Taking out the trash, $1. And for getting a good report card, $5. And for raking the yard, $2. Total owed $14.75. Well, she looked at him standing there expecting, and 1,000 memories began to flash through her mind. So she picked up the pen and she turned the letter over. This is what she wrote to that little boy. For the 9 months I carried you, growing inside me, no charge. For the nights I sat up with you, doctor, you prayed for you, no charge.
The great Shirley Caesar, no charge, no charge. Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Mother's Day for Peace. Mother's Day for Peace. That is the original idea of this holiday, to establish peace all over the world. All women, regardless of nationality, color, or creed, were being called to come together to end war for all time. Julia Ward Howe, Ann Jarvis, and Anna Jarvis were so appalled by what they saw during the Civil War. We lost more people on American soil than any war in our history. They said, you know, they spoke to mothers across the northern and southern lines, and they said, take care of the boys no matter where they come from. Let's do that. And let's come together and start meeting so we can end war, because we don't want to send our sons to war so we can unlearn everything that we taught them about being good people. We don't want our husbands reeking with the blood of others coming to us for congratulations. We've got to stop this. Mother's Day for Peace, everybody. And it seems like there's something in the air. There's a spirit, they call it the zeitgeist, the spirit of the times, in which people want something different. People are trying to progress forward, trying to become more humane, trying to become better. Dwight McKee. And so, as we go into, we're watching Karen Bass, progressive, triumph over a billionaire in Los Angeles. We've seen these mayors, we've seen these prosecutors, and they've gone forward, they've gone back, but the people have wanted them. They've wanted them. They want something else, something other than what the corporate media and the corporate titans are serving up to us. We've just been talking about Mother's Day for Peace and what it is that mothers are looking for as we look at the maternal mortality rate in the United States for Black and white and brown and yellow and red women is the highest in the Western world. What's going on? Something is off, Dwight McKee. And you were making a point that was going to tie this last hour into this one.
That I can't help but think of how ironic it is that Black women who had, in many ways, had to sell their children, or their children were sold up the river, down the river from them, and many of them who didn't know their children or had no contact with their children, or even had children who lived in the next county, but they weren't able to see because they were sold to other people. How ironic it was for them to have the experience and be called to be involved in a Mother's Day. It's the irony of it all. Or for Sojourner Truth, who understood the contrast between how Black women were treated and how other women were treated, so much as she raised the question, am I a woman too? When I look at how contrary I'm treated in the public ways, as opposed to a white lady who seems to be biologically everything that I am. And yet she's treated with such respect and I'm treated with such disrespect. How ironic that is. I think that tying it together with Brandon, I think that because this is a new day, it creates new possibilities. And that it does create the possibilities for peace, long-range peace, a commitment to peace, a commitment to equity, a commitment to fairness that had not existed before, at least in this town. And I think that with a new mentality of fairness that Brandon can bring to the table will give all of these disenfranched people at least a chance at a better life. How he handles this immigrant situation. Yes. Because it's just people, when it's all said and done, who are just looking for a better life for themselves and their children, families. And so if we see them as the boogeyman, it can be more of the same. But if we see them as humanity looking for a better way and reach out for them humanely, I think it can add a lot to the spirit of Christ.
Everybody, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this new administration that's coming into Chicago. And indeed, this mayor's race became a national race. Many in the corporate media said that this would be a referendum on crime, but it was about so much more. People were looking at education. What are we going to do about public education? People were looking at access to opportunity. Will we get contracts? Well, the same monies that are put in affluent parts of town and on the white side of town, will they be put in brown and Black neighborhoods? There's so much that we've got to talk about, and what it is that you need to do to help him help you. Because while we need to push, he's being pulled. Remember that. Call us at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. I'm Santita Jackson. Hope you'll join me on my show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, every Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. Of course, you can reach out to me on Santita Jackson and Friends on Facebook, and at Santita J on Twitter, at Santita J at Twitter, and on the YouTube channel of mine, The Santita Jackson Show. Back with this panel as we talk about this new mayor in Chicago. Back in just a few minutes.
When you add it all up, the real cost of my love is no charge. After that mom finished talking,
Your opinion counts. 1-866-59-4.
Say hello to the guests.
1-866-5.
Kitty Kurth.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Good
that's okay.
morning.
Good morning.
Morning. How are
Okay.
you?
Well, yeah, this is the first time I've called you in a minute. I was just trying to let you get your sea legs back.
And I apologize, Kitty and Aaron. Happy Mother's Day to you both.
Happy Mother's Day, Aaron.
Thank you. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day.
Attorney Connolly. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Happy
Kevin
Mother's Day.
Lampy. Dr. Robert
Good.
Schultz.
Good morning. Good morning. And happy Mother's Day to everyone.
Yes. All right. All of us, let us celebrate mothers on Mother's Day. Woof, woof, woof. Okay, we're on Facebook Live now, so remember. You can't just say anything. Ooh, ooh. Okay, I just want you to be careful. Be judicious in your remarks. So, are you excited about tomorrow? Are you all going to be at the inauguration tomorrow? Anybody?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay. Kitty, you coming, or you like,
No, I am not coming. I will be watching.
Well, bless your heart. Okay. Kevin?
No. Got other world-changing things to do tomorrow.
No, my. Aaron?
But we are wishing the new mayor well.
Oh, we know that you are. It's just goodness gracious. It's just, boy, oh boy. It's just always when you get there, it's just so much going on, and it's like, oh, whew. My father does all this with such zeal. I am like, oh, goodness gracious. I want to go home.
In past years, we've been the one taking care of the media and setting up the live shots at 4:00 in the morning. And I have gladly passed the reins to other younger communications professionals and let them have the chance.
Oh, this is right. Take the opportunity. Yeah, this is good for you.
Yeah, you learn this. It's really good.
Oh my goodness. This is too rich. Well, I'm glad that I'm sorry that you won't be there. So I can't grab you and go grab something to eat afterwards, but I will be there. Aaron, are you coming?
I will be there.
All right. Well, I'll catch up with you there. Where is it?
Absolutely. I'll send you the address.
Because I have the invite, but then I didn't pay any attention. Is it at the U of I? No.
U of I, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, okay. All right.
You probably have VIP parking though.
Honestly, I have paid no attention. Because they know I don't know what's going on. They said, well, when you get there, would you call us? I said, sure. I am. Whew. Huh. I do not know anything. And I'd like to get in, and as soon as he takes the oath, I'd like to slip on out that door. You know what? I used to get and I'm excited about this. Don't get me wrong. But I remember I'd watch my mother get ready to go to the Black Caucus every year. And, I couldn't wait. She wouldn't let me go because, of course, I was too young. She said, when you get to college, maybe. I get to college in Washington. My freshman year, I run over to the hotel. Dad's in town. My mother she was not coming. I said, are you serious? She said, yeah. She said, now you got it. Love you. Click. Man. I was so upset. Stand by. Here we are. Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to listen to this again today. This is beautiful.
You are the sunshine of my life. Was there a movie on him? I don't think there has.
On Steve Jordan? No.
Please,
Oh, wow. Love Stevie.
You are the apple of my eye. Forever you'll stay in my heart.
Okay, before this turns into a concert, welcome back to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today. July 15th through the 19th, the Rainbow Push International Conference. Everybody here on this call is going to be at that conference, and you don't want to miss it. So, everybody, let's talk about Mayor Brandon Johnson as we celebrate Mother's Day for Peace. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers. You do know that the original idea of this holiday was to end all wars for all time. To end all wars for all time. And so we need to get back to that. It was to help women to create healthy communities. Indeed, most soldiers in the Civil War died from the filth that they encountered, not their wounds. And infant mortality was raging throughout the United States because of unsanitary conditions. And so Julia Ward Howe and Ann Jarvis and Anna Jarvis said, look, if you want to help us, let's come together and let's resolve these issues. And these issues are still with us today. Maternal mortality in the United States is the highest in the Western world for white women and Black women and brown women and red women. Of course, it is exponentially worse for Indigenous and Black women, but wow. Should you be dying to have a baby? What is that? So let's talk about Brandon Johnson today and this progressive urban American agenda. How can we help him to achieve what we voted him in to do? As corporate forces are pulling him, what can we do to push him? What can we do? Let's talk about it with Kitty Kurth of Kurth Lampe Worldwide. She and her husband, Kevin Lampe, is with us today as well. Two of the top political operatives in the nation, indeed in the world. Aaron Connolly, attorney Aaron Connolly, brilliant political organizer and strategist and pundit. And of course, Dwight McKee has been with us, a social scientist. And we have Dr. Robert Starks, esteemed academician. We are always pull out your old poli-sci books, everybody, and your history books, because you are about to get tested. Educator, political consultant, activist. That's right, Professor Emeritus, Northeastern Illinois University. Watch it, everybody, because that's what's going to happen. So let me start with. Look, you better. You should. Wait a minute, aren't we all? Let me step back. But okay, attorney. Excuse me, Dr. Starks. Why don't you set the table for us? What about tomorrow? What is the agenda, and how can we help Brandon Johnson to achieve what we voted him in to achieve? Or do we have any responsibility at all?
Great deal of responsibility, and that is to be critical in our responses to him and the work that he is doing and what he proposes to do. But there are a few things that hit him right away as he goes into office. The first thing, of course, is his ability to come to grips with the new city council. I mean, he's got to work out some kind of way in which they can have peace and work cooperatively together. Because as you know, a month ago, the city council set up a new system of appointing committee members in the city council, and he has said that he might want to change some things, and I hope, of course, that does not end in the kind of back and forth and fighting in the city council. So that's one thing. The other thing, of course, is the migrants. How can we help him deal with the question of the migrants that are coming into the city?
Well, let me interrupt you there, because there is tension. I mean, I get this from a lot of the callers on my show. Black people want to help folks, but they're saying, wait a minute, you're helping them, and you're certainly helping Ukrainian immigrants and migrants more than you're helping Black people who've been here for hundreds of years. How does he work with that?
Well, I guess he'll have to, number one, stick closely with Congressman Davis and Congressman Jackson and fight for more federal money coming into the city to handle that. And then, of course, going some way of stopping the governor of Texas from sending in so many immigrants. And I think the fight that went on last week at South Shore High School was right on point. People pointed out that we have homeless people in the city of Chicago, and indeed in South Shore, that are sleeping on the streets. And why would you want to then bring more people into that neighborhood, and you haven't taken care of the people who are already there? And the other question is, why can't you use the empty spaces in places like McCormick Place rather than putting them into schools? Why can't you put homeless African American and Chicago residents in those schools? So that's a real thing he's got to work out with the city council, with Congressman Davis and Congressman Jackson to get more money. The third thing that he's got to deal with,
and Congresswoman Kelly, because her district is South Shore.
And the peace, and I don't know how you deal with the gun situation. Again, I guess he's got to work very closely with the congressional delegation to make sure that we get some gun legislation in the city. And then fourth, he's got to deal with the Chicago public school system. That is, believe me, Santita, that is his major problem. And he's only got, 3 more months to take care of that. There's need of mental health in the public school system. The public school systems need libraries. They need counselors. They need, safety problems. I mean, all kinds of things. Fifth, and that is the regular meetings with his congressional delegation. And lastly, the continuation of the restoration that Mayor Lori Lightfoot started with the West and South problems that are on and solutions to development in those areas. So he's got a big problems facing him immediately. And I think we as a community have to be, we have to be vigilant. We have to be critical, but not mean and crazy and outrageous in this whole process, because he's new. He's got a lot to learn. We can help him, but we can't be critical and crazy in our criticism.
Attorney Erin Connolly, in a couple of minutes. What do you see?
I'm really excited for tomorrow and the hope that a Johnson administration is going to bring. I think if we look at the amazing women and women of color, he's already made appointments in his administration representing many diverse neighborhoods, points of view, and all of these folks have the requisite experience to hit the ground running, right? You look at someone like an amazing mom, Dr. Christina Pasiones-Zayas, who's been in the state Senate for a few years, fighting for the things that the other panelists are talking about, right? Tackling these big issues of homelessness and the economic realities for working families in this state and this city. So I think it will take a coalition approach across different levels of government. And that's what Mayor Johnson, or Mayor-elect Johnson, for one more day, has been speaking about for this entire campaign, right? We saw him in DC this week advocating for those, developing those federal relationships, advocating for the federal government to invest in the values that America stands for, in supporting these human beings who are trafficked from Texas and Florida into the sanctuary city of Chicago. And if we're talking about peace on Mother's Day, this morning I woke up early and had a thoughtful prayer for the mothers who are sleeping on the floors of police stations in our city, who are worried about their children, who are wondering where they're going to get their next full meal from. And so I feel a lot of gratitude today on Mother's Day, but also, the deep responsibility that we have to carry each other through this, because for all of us in this country, someone has helped us and carried us through difficult times. And that's what we have an opportunity to do right now. I think the Johnson administration is the right team in charge to tackle the crisis that our city faces on many levels, and to do it with empathy and faith and a real sense of community.
Kitty Kurth, your thoughts? Kitty Kurth? Okay, well, let me pivot to you, Kevin Lampe.
It is what I see. There is a today agenda and a tomorrow agenda for the new mayor, for Brandon Johnson here. One is what has to be done on a daily basis. What has to be done to fix the potholes? What has to be done to pick up the garbage, to plow the streets in the winter? What are the infrastructure things that need to be accomplished? What are the day-to-day running of the city to make it run smoothly? To have the right people in the right jobs, and each of the departments working as they should be for the benefit of the people. And then there's the tomorrow agenda. How are we taking care of the bigger issues? Economic development, education, protecting resources, protecting our natural resources, providing opportunities for people to participate in giving businesses and people the opportunity to develop their businesses, start their businesses, grow their businesses. And so each day he's got to be looking at it, on his way into work. He's got to be looking, okay, where's the pothole, and then where's new business coming into the neighborhoods.
Dwight McKee, your thoughts? Dwight? Okay, well, let me move this around. Let me get to you, Kitty Kurth. Oh, now I can hear you. Yes. Oh, okay. Well, hold on, Dwight. Let me go to Kitty Kurth because I called on her first. Kitty, I've literally got 2 minutes.
We need to look at history and look around the world. What's working? What's worked? What do we need to do? The migrant crisis is just showing the cracks in the system for everybody. We have a homeless problem. We have a hunger problem. We've got food deserts. We've got to work together, and Mayor Johnson's challenge is going to be connecting all the dots and getting everybody to work together.
Well, what do you as a strategist advise him to do?
Bring everybody in and listen to everybody. I hate to keep going backwards, but I remember when Mayor Washington was elected and he went around and had town meetings in every single neighborhood around the city and talked to people, heard their problems, but also got their ideas. And I think Mayor Johnson has to do a similar thing.
Keep it alive.
So you're saying that he needs to go to each of the 50 wards, have a town hall meeting, and go from there. Do you think that was part of what, I've got about 30 seconds, do you think that's part of what drove the popularity of Mayor Washington?
Absolutely.
Amen.
And talk to everybody and listen.
Kitty Kurth, Amen.
Gotta get some-
Got to do that.
Oh, you got an A. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive. No, actually, hold on. I have a little bit more time. I always get confused by this clock. Let me find out from you, Dwight McKee. I didn't hear from you, Dwight. I got about a minute and a half.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity to open government up to people who historically have been excluded from government. All phases of government, from the police department to the fire department to the contracts to Department of Sanitation. This has been really a one ethnic group government for the last 60, 70, 80 years. And this is a chance that he can bring people in, Hispanics, the Chinese, people of color, bring them into government itself, not just the sub-services that the government brings, but the positions that run these departments and the jobs that exist in these departments. I think it's a real opportunity for him to be able to weave these migrants into the economy of the city. These people represent the labor force. They represent buyers. They represent business owners. And you can find a place for these people. I mean, at the housing.
And there is a place.
Housing.
Well, hold on. You give us that thought when we get on the other side. Of course, we're still on Facebook Live. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes.
How could so much love be inside of you? Oh, you are the sunshine of my life. Yeah.
This is
Your
50 years old.
1-866-594-HOPE. That's 1-866-594.
Keep Up Alive.
Oh, happy Mother's Day, Laura and Jewel
Hi.
and everybody.
What's your name?
Would you let her know Anita from North Carolina is calling and that Governor Roy Cooper just vetoed the abortion ban because he said that the mothers don't have child care, children don't have a right to education so they can work later. And he just thought it was proper that, they have all these things to go along with, the rights to have birth of children. But he did veto the abortion ban because of that. And then he said Happy Mother's Day.
All right. I will let him know. Thank you, Nita.
All right.
Keep Up Alive. How can I help you?
Yes, good morning. I just wanted to say Happy Mother's Day to the Jackson family and so to Nita that I'm so happy that she made sure that she gave me a shout out. And we can hope alive. So I wanted to say.
Okay. Hold on, Joe. All right.
Okay.
So you heard that since it was so loud in my ear. You heard the first one.
Yes.
Okay.
I am so grateful.
All right, 30 seconds.
You're listening to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Call 1-866-594-HOPE. That's 1-866-594-4673.
sister. The tempest is raging. Oh, the billows are tossing high. The sky is overshadowed with blackness.
Whew, the great James Cleveland. Wow, 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 wow. One of the great teachers of the great Aretha Franklin. And of course, he came from Albertina Walker, the great Albertina Walker. Boy, what a golden age that was and continues to be. Nothing moves you like traditional gospel music. I'm Santita Jackson. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today as we talk about the new mayor in Chicago. We've all been so excited about that, about Brandon Johnson and what his occupation of the seat of mayor is going to mean. But if you do not get involved, if you do not help him help you, all of us will be for naught. Let me go to Jewel from New York. Jewel, what's on your mind, sweetie? I sure can. It's wonderful hearing your voice, Jewel. Happy Mother's Day.
It's such a blessing to hear your father earlier.
Thank you.
And your mother, Dr. Queen Jackson. It's such a wonderful, look at all the blessings and how you help strengthen other families like mine.
Oh, bless your heart. Well, we've been blessed.
Yes, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you so much for all you do. And Mother's Day is such a blessing for all the mothers around the world, for us to pray for peace. Amen. That's all I want.
Love you and happy Mother's Day to you. Hope you have a glorious day. You certainly deserve it. Hey, everybody, let's talk about Mayor Johnson. Everybody wants him to do this, that, and the other. But if we do not help him, he cannot help us. Dwight McKee.
Yes, I was saying that it's a marvelous time for him to open up government and to integrate the immigrants into the economy, because they bring a labor force, they bring business interest. We need them to be able to rent a lot of these houses that need to be reclaimed. I mean, it's just a great opportunity to broaden the precepts and the distribution of goods and services in government. And so we're excited about that. And I think he has the heart to do it. It really starts with empathy and being able to see and invest your emotions into the trauma of other people. And I think he brings that to the table as much as any mayor we've had in the last 20, 30 years.
Well, Dr. Starks, what about the pushback that he will surely get from people who say, look, we've been here and we're not getting any help? How about that?
You're correct. And of course, he's got to make sure he has an excellent press and communications network in his office, because the press is going to be on him every day and pointing out everything that they think is a mishap. I'd like to really congratulate Brother Lampy, because he's right on the money. He's got to look at the day-to-day kinds of things, because what strikes people the most is the streets. Do we have potholes? Are they picking up the garbage? Are they making sure we don't have lead in our water, etc.? So those are the immediate things that he's got to look at, and that's why it is so crucial that he set up these town hall meetings throughout the city to make sure that he gets the kinds of feedback that we need. And that, of course, is the basis of the response that he needs from the community before he can adequately deal with the long-term issues of health and economics, etc. But he's got to take care of those immediate issues.
Well, Kevin Lampy, you're sitting in the office with him. You and Kitty Kurth are saying, okay, this is what you need to do. Because we all know that this is also about optics, right? Not just what you do, but what people think you are doing. What should he be doing, Kevin Lampy, and then you, Kitty Kurth?
Important that he is explaining everything he is doing and building a solid relation with the mainstream media, with the traditional media, and having an open line of communication with those reporters that cover City Hall on a daily basis. Also, he is taking advantage of social media, which is his opportunity to deliver the message in the way he wants to deliver it through the various platforms, through Twitter, through Facebook, through Instagram, and TikTok, and every platform that's out there, and be talking about the things that he's accomplishing, but also soliciting feedback so that he is hearing it. The more he stays open and the more he is communicating, it is going to help him do a job much better.
Kitty Kurth?
What successful mayors all over the world have done, and he's got to do that. We have to match problems and opportunities. We've got all these migrants coming in who are workers. They're coming here because they want to work. The problem is the laws prevent them from working. They can't get legal work permits for I think it's a year. It's a long time. They don't get any federal funding. So we are going to have to, out of our humanitarian hearts, help them to stay alive until they can get work, or we're going to have to change the laws. But okay, we need workforce housing for everybody. We need to house the homeless. We need affordable housing. Many of the migrants coming in are construction workers. Let's match that need, the need with the opportunity. But it all comes back to what we were talking about before, communication.
And vocational education, right? Yeah, but no, I guess, well, let me insert this here. You're absolutely right, but I'm hearing it. I'm telling you, I'm going to hear it all week. As we are now in a state of emergency, which Mayor Lightfoot declared correctly with respect to the migrants who are being brought to Chicago. And I mean, and you hear Mayor Adams in New York, and you just because that is the game that's being played. And what you're hearing is, particularly in the Black community, people are saying, look, we've been here. We don't get these opportunities. What? I'm trying to figure out how you wend your way through that.
Absolutely. And the cracks in our system are exposed by the migrants. But remember, people coming into the country as asylum seekers, as refugees, they do not get food stamps. They do not get any support monetarily at all. And further, they are prevented from working because they can't get work permits until they've been here for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear all of the pleas, and everybody should be getting help. Everybody should be getting help. When we build somewhere for people to live, everybody should be allowed to go and apply and live there. But what I'm saying too is a lot of these people coming in, they have skills. Mm-hmm. They can help. You always hear in public policy, well, this is a crisis, so we're going to have to build the plane while we fly it. Well, let's literally build the housing where we need it and why we need it. Let's get folks with skills to help build things, to help do things. People are coming here because they want to work. Whether you've met an African immigrant or a Mexican immigrant or a Ukrainian immigrant, any of those folks that you talk to that have come to Chicago, why did they come to Chicago? They came to Chicago for jobs.
You're absolutely right. I'm hearing the pushback, feeling it, argue strenuously against it, but
they came to steal our jobs.
I mean, they're taking our jobs, and that's what you're hearing so much of that. I just see if it's not dealt with adequately. That's why I mentioned vocational education, because that's been taken away from the Black community, unfortunately, right? And yeah.
A lot of the jobs that migrants take are, quite frankly, jobs that Americans aren't doing. You know, everywhere you go, you see a help wanted sign.
Mm-hmm. I look,
You know,
I
people,
get it. I'm just saying, you know, you're right. You're right. But also, you know, we spend more time in the United States trying to deny people opportunity than providing it. You know, and that's what's so sad here.
its head.
That's right. Put it on its head. And as we open up the doors to migrants, open up the doors to vocational education, open up the doors because the work is here. The job is here. You know, we just have untrained workers. Right.
Countries, let's use them to help train our workers here.
Okay.
You know, we've talked about the one level of immigration. The level of immigration we haven't talked about is the number of doctors in this country and the fact that we don't have doctors in this country. They're training doctors outside of the U.S. and we're not letting them in here to fulfill community health needs. We need more doctors. There are doctors who want to come. Why can't we make that match up?
Because you know what? We're spending more time telling you why you're not qualified because of an affirmative action program. I mean, it's just awful. And we have schools that we are not funding. We're playing games, Kitty. I mean, you're absolutely right. These people are coming here because they want to work. All you have to do is look in the trades and see the Eastern Europeans who come here already trained. And I'm just saying that there's a disconnect here and there's a hole in this boat that's got to be plugged in. Otherwise, everybody's going to sink.
I hate to be a broken record, but I think it all starts with communication.
Mm-hmm.
Communication between people, communication between politicians and the media, communications between the media and people. And the more we sit in our silos and don't talk to one another, the worse things are going to get.
Absolutely. Dwight McKee, your thoughts?
I share the thoughts everybody on the panel.
Okay.
I think it's an opportunity to open up. But I think it's the way you look at it. If you see it as a crisis, you're treated as a crisis. But if you see it as an opportunity, you're treated as an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's we lost 300,000 Black people in the last 10 years. So there's obviously a deficit of population here, deficiency in the population here, which means there's the deficiency in the labor sources here that those new immigrants can fulfill. I understand the resentment that Black people have for a new group being imposed upon them, but I think that's two things. One is they really weren't communicated with and explained what was going to happen. So they wasn't involved in the process. And secondly, because they've been so benignly neglected for the last 40 years, that the answer to that is to redirect some of the resources into the Black community so they won't feel so abandoned and so left out and so violated when you help new people. The answer to helping new people is not to not help people who need help. It's to help everybody.
Amen. Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. And I continue to push the issue because it is an issue for people and it's something that we have to deal with. Erin, I've got 2 minutes before we go to break. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm very hopeful hearing from the panel that the Johnson administration can follow through on this. He is first and foremost a community organizer and an educator. And his background as the son of a pastor and a teacher, right, is communication. And where I think Mayor Lightfoot kind of got off track at the beginning of her term, when she first got elected, was kind of moved past where she was in the campaign of going out to these meetings. She showed up at a lot of these things during the campaign and the engagement level kind of, just petered off. And I think Brandon and his administration is committed to staying present and listening And that's what I heard from the panel. That's what I hope for. And his background as an organizer and knowing how he shows up, knowing how the people that he's appointed show up in this work, I think is going to be a really powerful shift in really creating that community engagement, and the back and forth, not just feeding people information, but really taking that in, listening, and changing course because of it, right? Like, people need to see that. And I think the work in the community and that being a core value of this administration is going to shift a lot for the city.
Everybody, what are you thinking? What are you going to do to help him, to help Karen Bass, to help Eric Adams, to help all of these people who you've elected? What are you going to do to help them help you? Back with closing thoughts on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson, July 15th through the 19th, the Rainbow Push International Conference. You need to be there. Go to rainbowpush.org for more information and call 773-FREEDOM throughout the week. Stay right there. Mother's Day for Peace. Let's hear Reverend Cleveland. Jeremy.
Redeem. Get up, Jesus, because
Coming up, we'll have closing thoughts from Reverend Jesse Jackson right here on Keep Hope Alive.
Okay, you all keep talking. Every time I hear, the first time I heard that song when I was a little girl, I cried. I don't know. Oh my gosh. Some of these songs that just make me cry. Oh boy. God bless him. Well, I am hoping for the best, and I think now we need to understand that we've got to go to work in order for this administration. As Reverend Johnny Coleman used to say, it works when you work it.
Yep.
And I think we've got to communicate that, Kitty and Kevin and Aaron and Dwight and Dr. Starks, to everybody, because you can't just send him up there and just say, now do it. It's like, no.
Right. It's a two-way street. You gotta be able to support, and at every level, from the city council to the communities, it's a two-way street. You can't send him there and expect him to do everything without supporting him. We got to do that.
And you support sometimes by engaging in loving critique. You need to understand the forces that are arrayed against not just him, your agenda.
Precisely.
So you have to tell him, now, wait a minute, when Mr. So-and-so or, this corporation comes in on you, now this is what we need you to do, and people have to march, and on and on and on.
Right. And the critical thing, and I think Dwight will agree with me on this, the public school system is in shambles.
Yeah.
We've got to restore the public school system because, again, those immigrants are bringing children in. Those children have to go to schools. And, of course, the school system needs buildings need to be repaired. We need to restore counselors, mental health care, safety, all of those things. And so he's got one hell of a agenda facing him immediately upon inauguration. And we've got to be behind him because he has the right ideas. He has a very good staff that he's put on with him. So we've got to support him. Absolutely.
Well, Bob, you know, we could reestablish the black middle class off of the school, just alone off the school system. Is that we lost 3,000 jobs, teachers, right? When we closed these 50 schools. And if you can use these children to reopen those schools, you create major opportunity to bring some of those teachers back to employ people in the neighborhood. You need crossing guards. You need librarians. You need counselors. It becomes a golden opportunity because now we lack children. We have buildings and we have curricula, but we lack children. So these children become a golden opportunity to restore, even for blacks, the middle class that we lost during the Romney administration.
Right. And the COVID.
Well, you know, Jeremy, my technical producer, just said he just saw one of these public schools that they closed, that they reopened as condominiums, and you know, mixed. Well, not even mixed.
Not
use,
condos.
Not condos. They're rentals. And
Rentals.
what were you saying? Tell them, Jeremy.
$3,000 a month. $3,000 for a 2-bedroom.
Dwight kept saying that this was a land grab. Dwight has been saying forever that all that we have been witnessing has been a land grab. It's been a land grab.
15 seconds.
Okay, stand by. We're gonna have like everybody's gonna have about 30 seconds to close. Okay.
Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're live.
Hey, July 15th through the 19th, Rainbow Push International Conference. You've got to be there. We're going to have conversations just like these, and we'll be searching for solutions, but you got to be in it to win it, everybody. Closing thoughts, Kevin Lampe.
Optimism. He's been looking at, okay, what can we get done on a daily basis that's going to move us and prepare us for tomorrow? Those are the key things. If he can look at these things from a positive point of view and offer up a solution, but also listen to people and build the team that can lead the city and tackle the problems that are facing us.
Kitty Kurth.
We need to listen to Dwight McKee and Kevin Lampe, and we need to readjust. These are challenges that provide opportunities. Let's make them into win-win situations for everybody. Migrants need housing. Homeless people need housing. Let's build housing and give people jobs. Let's put kids in school and give teachers jobs and counselors. If we all work together, we can get this done.
And get the message to Brandon Johnson, because if he frames it that way, Aaron Connolly, it's a winner. Attorney Aaron Connolly, 30 seconds.
And I think it will be. And it's our responsibility, as you talk about Office Stampede and your father talks about all the time. We have to hold ourselves accountable for our faith in this movement. And we also have to hold this new administration accountable and say, hey, where's the progress on this piece? And I know the community groups have a more open door to the fifth floor than they ever have. And there'll be a sense of collaboration. And I think there'll be a sense of accountability that hasn't really existed. And instead of shutting those folks down, I hope that open door remains. And I am hopeful for so much tomorrow and beyond with the Johnson administration. Congratulations to him. Happy Mother's Day to all, and to his wife, Stacey, as well, who will be First Lady of our city.
Amen. Dr. Robert Starks, 30 seconds.
I agree with everything that's been said. It's a two-way street. We have got to be supportive as well as being critical, but not nasty in our criticism. We've got to cooperate, and we've got to integrate the migrants into the city, and we got to have two-way communication between the community, the city council, as well as the mayor. but we make sure that our city councilmen are cooperative
Absolutely.
with the mayor. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Dwight McKee, inside of 30 seconds.
About a land grab, then it's time to grab the land back. And it's time to, it's all about who you advocate for. Before, the advocation was for the developers, for the wealthy, for those who had power, prestige. Now we can advocate for the disenfranchised, for the poor, for those who have been locked out of the system.
Yes.
It's a perfect opportunity because there's so much land available, so much opportunity available, and so much need available. We need to marry those three.
Amen, everybody. And remember, keep hope alive.
Thank you for listening to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. For more information on upcoming shows and guests, please visit our website at www.keephopealiveradio.com.
Hey, everybody, want to get some closing? Well, we are off the air, and I'm going to close Facebook Live shortly. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to say before I shut everything down? Oh, yes. Which one is that?
Happy Mother's Day, you all.
Thank you for sharing Sunday morning.
Send it to me. Happy Mother's Day. It's just a shame what they've done to these schools. Turn them into condos. Unbelievable. But this is what they've done. This is what they've done. Thank you, Jewel. Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Susan, Dave, everybody. If you are a mother, if you had a mother, God bless you. If you've mothered someone, God bless you. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, Aaron. Happy Mother's Day, Kitty Kurth. Happy Mother's Day, Kevin Lampy. Happy Mother's Day, Dwight McKee. Sending everybody Happy Mother's Day, Jeremy.
Happy Mother's Day, Santita.
Thank you. Love you. Hey. All right, everybody. I'm going to let you go. Mwah.